Alright. So, a lot of people are probably just going to watch this after the fact. The point of this is not necessarily, like, to be live as the main point of anything. I just decided to do it this way because it is easier for me, plus anybody who's got any questions while I'm talking about this, feel free to ask, and maybe we can figure some things out together. So, I'm going to be going over some of the new equipment that's going to be added to the game very quickly, or very soon, I should say. As covered in the official Mech Arena dev vlog. If you're not following the official Mech Arena YouTube channel, then you probably should. They do all their announcements, like, you know, update announcements and stuff over there, in terms of like what they're working on and stuff. So, you know, that's where I got these screenshots. That's where I got this information. So, yeah, we are going to start with the new Mech Loki. No idea what it's going to do, but they said that it's going to emphasize teamwork. So I can only imagine that it's going to be some sort of supportive ability, kind of like MD, where it is particularly to do with teammates and not necessarily just something that you can use for your own advantage, like Cheetah Mines or Zephyr EMP. Tutu, hello. Yep, I'm just going over some of the new stuff. Anybody who watches this later, they're gonna see it, and yeah, it's live. I don't care. If anybody's got any questions, then, you know, feel free to ask me, but I don't know a whole lot about this mech specifically. It looks like it's carrying Gauss 6s in this picture, but even still, in terms of a support mech, it looks like it's going to be kind of large. So I would assume relatively high HP, probably the highest of all the support mechs. In terms of the ability, I mean, I can only guess. It has like a radar dish on its head, so I'm thinking some type of radar scanner. Possibly like scanning enemies with it will, I don't know, apply like an overheat effect to all enemies within the radius or something. Who knows? Who knows? It will literally give some of its power to get team, and we are sure about what the devs said about Loki. I mean, the devs didn't say much of anything about Loki, to be completely honest. Aeroraptor, hello. Ooh. So, ah, dang it. Gallery. Thank you. There we are. So in terms of Loki, yeah, there's not a whole lot that we know. Mech Conqueror, hello. What do you think Loki's ability will be? I think it'll be some sort of radar scanning type thing. Maybe it'll... I'm sure it'll take Shadow out of its stealth or something, but like just judging by like the little radar dish on its head. But that's literally it. I do think though that given the size of it, it looks like it's carrying Gauss 4s or Gauss 6s, but in either case, it looks like it's going to be the largest and probably have the most HP out of all the support mechs. So that's interesting. In terms of the Graviton Beam, there's actually quite a bit to be said about this. Now, you know me. I saw this, and yeah, basically, I took the numbers that are shown in the screenshot that they showed in their video, and I made some estimations about what the levels are, what the rank and levels are, how much damage certain things would be doing compared to other things, right? So judging by the Panthers' HP, I can assume that whatever rank and level that the Panther is estimated to be, that is what I'm going to assume that the weapons are also going to be, okay? Just for the sake of this. But judging by 17.5 thousand HP at roughly 20%, I'm guessing it's going to be like 43,750 in terms of a full bar, which is roughly equal to rank 5 level 4. So based on that, Stasis Beam at rank 5 level 4 does 433 per hit, and this is doing 720 per hit. That said, the two beam weapons that exist, the Thermal Lance and the Stasis Beam, both have very different RPMs. Stasis Beam has 300 RPM and Thermal Lance has 600. So it is very possible that these numbers are stacked and that the real damage per hit of the Graviton Beam is actually like 360, which, you know, half of that. Because when something becomes too high of an RPM, instead of just like drowning you in numbers, they just stack a couple of them, right? They do that with the Arachnos turret damage and the high RPM. Hello, everybody. No, we're not doing customs. No, I am just quickly going over all of the different things. I wanted to cover some of the new stuff that was in the dev vlog earlier, but instead of making an entire video about it, I decided, you know what? I'll just do it live. I'll just do it right now. I know I have not uploaded today, and I did not upload yesterday. I've been busy, actually. Spent the night somewhere else yesterday, so I didn't even have my game with me. But assuming Graviton Beam is like Stasis Beam with a 300 RPM, then it's going to be doing a significantly more damage per hit than Stasis Beam. That said, based on the clips that they gave, it does look like it has a relatively low amount of ammo, which is good. But also, if you see the high damage count there with the 18.7 thousand, that's what happens when you get the cumulative effect. And basically what happens is once that bar fills up, then it just does like a massive amount of damage. And if you keep it filled up like you can with a beam weapon, it'll just keep activating again and again and again, like every second. And that honestly sounds terrifying, because that is a 26 times multiplier that we're looking at. From 720 to 18.7 thousand. That is a 26 times multiplier in damage. And even if that is the cumulative damage between both weapons, it's still 13 times more damage, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it, because, yeah. And based on the amount of HP that's being lost, that giant chunk that's being taken out of player number 7 on the screenshot, assuming that kind of pink chunk that was just taken out, assuming that is the entirely the 18.7 thousand that was taken away in a single hit, then that's roughly a quarter of that Ares max HP. Looks like an Ares, which would put that Ares at a total of 74.8 thousand HP, which is in line with the rank 5 level 4, but with, like, you know, pilot HP increase of like 7% or something like that. So the kind of crazy damage, and this Panther isn't even using a pilot, so like keep that in mind. But the kind of crazy damage and the gameplay that you see in the dev vlog, where these people are like literally melting and exploding mechs all over the place with those Graviton beams, these are relatively accurate depictions of what you will do to enemies at the same level as your weapons. And that's kind of terrifying. By the way, this is assuming that both of these Graviton beams are the 12 energy variants. I know that there are 10 energy variants, but they're definitely not both 16s, because the Panther obviously is only rank 5 level 4. at least estimated to be. So, yeah, that's kind of crazy, I think. I think when that red bar gets full, the damage gets overcharged. No, it's not, it is not like Overheat. They take a giant amount of damage all at once. As opposed to Overheat, where it's like, well, now the effect is active, so now you just, you know, deal generally more damage. It's not like that. You do a massive amount of damage all at once, and then so long as you can keep that beam on them, they'll just keep taking chunks of damage like every second or so. And from all appearances, it is at least a 13 times damage multiplier. And I'm assuming it's a damage multiplier, not like a, you know, a different damage number. Although it could be like a percentage of the max HP of the enemy mech, but I don't think that they'd bother making it that complicated, to be completely honest. So yeah, it's video is not moving. It's not a video, it's pictures. I'm just going through the new equipment, doing some predictions, some estimations based on the numbers that I can see here. The pilots, obviously there's 2 new ones. I don't know what they're going to be. There's really no indicator as to what they're going to be. But there are only 3 different weapon types that are even going to be needing a legendary pilot, right? Which would be close range, guided, and artillery. I really hope that one of these is not artillery, because there's still one weapon for artillery, and it's rocket mortar, and that's really boring if they make 3 different pilots for that one weapon. But in either case, close range would also be really bad, because close range is already a nightmare to deal with, and the same thing for like disc launcher. I think between the 3 weapons that you would not want to see these on, arc turret, rocket mortar, and disc launcher. I think the one that I wouldn't mind would be disc launcher, just because it does the least amount of damage naturally. Arc torrent is an absolute nightmare, and honestly, if I had to choose which ones these were, I would hope that it's guided and artillery. Although I just said artillery would be stupid, and I fully stand by that. They should make more artillery weapons. I think arc torrents do way too much damage, and boosting that damage with a legendary pilot would just be unnecessary. Rocket mortar does a ton of damage too, but for the most part it's a one-hit weapon anyway, so, you know, like, who even cares at that point, right? Custom today or just tomorrow? Yeah, it's just gonna be tomorrow. I'm not even necessarily gonna play anything today. Not here. I might go live on Twitch later, but that depends on what happens. Anyway, there's a couple new maps that, you know, I took some screenshots of too, but not a lot to be said. It's kind of hard to determine exactly whether or not the little clips that they showed us were all of different maps, because they all looked very similar. They're all just, you know, they're blocky. They're not exactly fleshed out yet. But this one looks like it's going to be a mainly underground, like, tunnel type map, and I think that could be really cool. This one, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell which ones would be, you know, the CPC, which one would be the 5v5s. I'm glad that they're adding more 5v5 maps, because they haven't done that in a little while. And 5v5 gets a little bit boring if you play the same map. Especially if you like to play tournament, then you just play the same map all the time. So, yeah. But I think, overall, that's all I really have to say. Most of what I wanted to point out in this was that, based on the numbers given in the screenshot, and, you know, throughout the rest of the video, based on these numbers, it really, really looks like Graviton Beam is going to do stupid amounts of damage. And, you know, that is kind of the prerequisite for doing well in this game. If it doesn't do copious amounts of damage, then it's probably not going to be a good weapon. That said, I don't necessarily want any more, quote, good weapons, because certain ones really just need a little bit of a damage nerf, as opposed to just making all the other ones stronger, because survivability in the game is not fantastic as is. That said, I'm excited to try these weapons anyway, and I very much hope that they don't completely overperform. But they are beam weapons, and beam weapons just by nature are not fantastic because it requires you to be exposed for a longer period of time. Whereas, like, with railgun or missile rack or something, you can just, like, peek out and then fire and then just go back into cover, and you don't have to spend time being exposed to the other mech to where they can, you know, spend that time hitting you and killing you. Beam weapons require you to be out in the open to some capacity. And maybe that'll balance this out, maybe it won't. No one really knows, but it looks like the damage is going to be crazy. So, I think Loki might be able to clock allied mechs from enemy radar. So you think it'll be able to just, like, temporarily stealth everyone? I mean, I would love that, and I think it would be fantastic if they only make it like 3 seconds maximum. Because making everyone, well, I guess unless it's like a radius, I guess. If it's like a, you know, everyone within 30 meters, which is the typical radius distance, everyone within 30 meters gets like 5 seconds of targeting stealth, basically, yourself included, then I wouldn't mind that. You know, I wouldn't mind that. But if it makes it so that everyone on your team, regardless of how close they are or anything, if it makes it everyone on your team, then 4 seconds maximum. Otherwise, that would be a little bit OP, and you could just have like a couple of those running and just be like constantly stealthed. Certain things could not hit you at all. That said, I would love for stealth to be implemented in more mechs. I know it is technically implemented in Tengu, but is one of the, I don't want to call it a lesser feature, but it's not one of the most prominent features of Tengu, because, I mean, you're already getting up in people's faces. It's pretty hard for them to miss. So, you don't really feel the stealth most of the time. Most of the time, you just take the same amount of damage anyway. Not like Shadow, but being visible on map radar. I mean, if it's only invisible on map radar, then that's kind of useless, because, I mean, not everyone even uses that, number one. Number two, bots don't use it at all, so it wouldn't do anything, except for, you know, it wouldn't do anything for anyone that's not a real player. But number three, I think that actual stealth, like Shadow, could be good. Shadow's stealth is like a base duration of like 12 seconds or something like that, so it's really long, and that's what makes Shadow good, is that it's, you know, it's able to be in stealth for very long. So like 5 seconds shouldn't be that bad. It would make Shadow still, you know, like equally viable, and but it would kind of like make a group of mechs in stealth. It's possible, it's possible. There's a lot of different things that it could potentially be, and no one really knows what it is. There's a little radar dish on the top, so, you know, you can only just assume that it's going to have something to do with that, but at the end of the day, no one really knows, right? I'm going to assume that it's going to be kind of slow, because it does look like it's going to be the largest of all of the support mechs. It's going to be an epic one, by the way. Which, I mean, they should have just made a legendary one. you know, because they already have an epic support mech. Actually, they have 2 epic support mechs. Zephyr and Cheetah are both epic. So making a 3rd one's a little bit redundant to me, but they should have just made it a legendary. Either way. It's all speculation in terms of Loki, but I'm excited to see what the heck's going on with it. But yeah, thank you guys for stopping by. I know this is just kind of a random thing that I decided to do, but anyone watching this later could potentially find some use in it. So yeah, main takeaway, the Graviton Beam seems like it's going to be pretty darn good, and I would just keep my eyes open for any more info that they might drop about it, because yeah, you might wanna start saving up your Acoins or whatever to try to get it. But yeah, thanks guys for joining. I will be streaming tomorrow at 11 a.m. EST, and we'll be doing custom games and whatever. So don't worry, that's still on the schedule. This was just a one-off thing. So goodbye.